Hello and welcome to Newsfeed, your daily dose of what people are talking about online, from news stories to what's trending. Now, Liz Truss will be Britain's next Prime Minister, taking over from scandal-plagued Bojo. Truss won the Conservative Party's leadership race with more than 80,000 votes. She will be sworn in as PM on Tuesday when she meets the Queen in Scotland. She beat rival Rishi Sunak by about 15% of the vote. In Liz we trust, say her supporters, but there'll be no honeymoon period for her to settle into the role. Truss will have to hit the ground running as she faces immediate challenges. Let's have a look at her inbox. Much of the Western world is facing a cost of living crisis, and the UK is no exception. Record levels of inflation, increased energy costs, shortages of goods and materials, and the fallout from COVID-19 mean Britons are feeling the squeeze and facing a bleak winter indeed. Truss has promised to act within a week to tackle the cost of living crisis, but has so far refused to provide any details or discuss specific policies. Prices may be rising, but wages are not. In fact, when you take inflation into account, the real value of workers' pay has fallen at the fastest rate in 20 years. Rail and postal workers, as well as barristers, have already organized strikes, and the country's biggest unions are considering coordinated action this autumn. But then there's Brexit, with the UK looking increasingly isolated during these testing times. The Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, which unravels UK agreements with Brussels, has infuriated Europe. Truss has until September 15th to trigger Article 16, which would suspend parts of the agreement.
Well, here we go again, standing in front of number 10 Downing Street, welcoming in yet another Prime Minister. We have had 4 in 6 years here in the UK, and Liz Truss took to Twitter to celebrate, saying, "Thank you for putting your trust in me to lead and deliver for our great country. I'll take bold action to get all of us through these tough times, grow our economy and unleash the United Kingdom's potential." Now, some have described Liz Truss as being a little bit awkward, and we got a first taste of that when she tried to pay tribute to Boris Johnson.
You were admired from Kiev to Carlisle.
Meanwhile, foreign leaders have been sending messages. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz tweeted, "Congratulations on your new role at Truss, Liz. I'm looking forward to our cooperation in these challenging times." But it looks like the British opposition has no intention of cooperating. Labour leader Keir Starmer tweeting, "After 12 years of the Tories, all we have to show for it is low wages, high prices and a Tory cost of living crisis. Only Labour can deliver the fresh start our country needs." And finally, a cheeky reminder from a political analyst that only Tory members, not the UK public, voted for the new PM. He says just 81,326 people elected Liz Truss Tory leader and therefore Prime Minister. That's roughly 0.1% of the country. She's very unlikely to be in office for long. And if that's the case, I guess we'll be back here in Downing Street for the next PM, whoever that might be.
Chileans have said no to a new progressive constitution. In a referendum, 62% of the population rejected the leftist constitution that would have drastically changed the country. The proposal had 388 articles that would have increased social rights and environmental regulation. It also proposed to give the Chilean government more responsibility over social welfare. The new constitution would have provided full gender parity and additional seats for indigenous representatives. The current constitution was written during the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet between 1973 and 1990. With the new proposed document, the government was aiming to break away from the strict rules of the past and reflect the needs and values of today. In 2020, nearly 80% of Chile voted to draft the new constitution, but 2 years on, its draft proposal has been rejected.
Compatriots, today the people of Chile have spoken, and they have spoken loud and clear. They have delivered two messages. The first is that they love and value their democracy, that they trust in it to overcome differences and move forward. And it is confirmed by this electoral process, which has seen the largest turnout of citizens at the polls in our history.
Although the public wanted change, they say, well, this isn't it. Right-wingers argue that the proposal would shift the country too far left, and some of the articles were too ambitious to actually work. So voters have demanded a new draft, one that's more suited to the majority of the country's ideals.
But those who wrote this constitution did not represent us at all. Seriously, I can assure you that changes are needed, undoubtedly. There are going to be changes, but then we need a good constitution, a constitution that represents us all.
And what about the 38% that said yes to the new constitution? Well, they're sad that an opportunity to become more progressive seems like it's lost. The opposition has vowed to come up with another draft, a better one that'll likely get the thumbs up. But in the meantime, supporters of the rejected draft can't help but feel defeated.
It's so sad. With this result, I don't have any positive feelings. I was certain, I really believed that the result was going to be different. Although it is true that this can work against us today, the process continues. The president has said it, the politicians themselves have said it.
From the south of the continent to the north, a mass stabbing has stunned residents in the Canadian province of Saskatchewan. More than 10 people have lost their lives and some 15 more were wounded. Canadian police have launched a manhunt for 2 suspects and asked people across Saskatchewan and neighboring provinces to be vigilant. Police believe some of the victims were targeted deliberately, whereas other victims were attacked randomly. All the stabbings occurred in Indigenous communities. As the search for the suspects was underway, netizens shared images of the pair in hopes of somehow assisting the manhunt. And Canada's Indigenous community is praying for everyone who's been hurt in the incident.
Please pray for those taken, harmed, and forever changed in Weldon, Saskatchewan, Canada, my home country.
Get ready for our next story because it might sound a bit like a Black Mirror episode. It's about Amazon agreeing to buy iRobot for $1.7 billion. The iRobot is most famous for its Roomba vacuum, which is equipped to integrate with various smart home systems. It's known for being able to go through your house and create a digital map of where all your furniture and door frames are. And it's all to make vacuuming more efficient. The appliance will join Amazon's smart home systems like the voice assistant Alexa, the Astro robot, and Ring security cameras. The purchase might seem insignificant at first, but it's actually Amazon's 4th largest acquisition, and is being described as the most dangerous one in the tech giant's history. The deal has raised a number of questions, and they're all about data rather than dust. Now, more and more people think the company is becoming less like an online marketplace and more like a surveillance company. Let's take a look at what people think Amazon is planning to do with the iRobot.
Your Roomba vacuum is going to be able to tell if the space is entirely empty, meaning you're moving, or if you've moved to a new place and created a new map. It could tell whether furniture has been moved, if you have a larger table, all of these different things. These are all data points that the Roomba could theoretically gather and then share back to Amazon. How does this help Amazon? Pretty simply, it could help Amazon market to you with more precision about things that you might need if you were moving, if you were purchasing a new table, if you were redecorating. At the end of the day, I think that this acquisition comes down to the data. Amazon wants the data because the more data that they have about how we live our lives, the more money they're able to make off of us. If they can track our habits and our patterns and get an understanding of how we're operating, then they can market to us with more precision. At the end of the day, they can make more money.
Hey Amazon, why did you buy iRobot for $1.7 billion? We have like $60 billion of extra cash on hand, and it would perfectly complement our master consumer surveillance master plan? Didn't you guys already have a robot vacuum in development called Astro? Why buy iRobot? Well, Astro was very early development. Like 4 years of early development. You sure it wasn't because iRobot mapped out hundreds of consumer homes and now you have the most intimate details of what everyone's house looks like so that you can better sell your products in addition to having data from Alexa, Ring, and the healthcare company you just acquired? Hey look, we're working on the next season of The Boys.
So as you can imagine, Amazon's move has created quite the buzz on Twitter as well. Journalist Francesca Martinelli says thanks to the purchase, Amazon will acquire $1 billion and $700,000 worth of data. Law professor Nida Farahani has described the situation as creepy because of all the personal information the robot will suck up. Writer Jeremy Duncan agrees with Francesca and Nida by saying Amazon is no longer a retailer, it's a data company. On the other hand, keeping our houses beautifully clean every day is a lot of work, and doing it without even getting up is impossible. That's why many users like Carl here say that they will keep using their robot devices no matter what. Pierluigi Paganini is a cybersecurity and intelligence expert. He explains how safe Amazon is and how we can protect our data while using its systems.
Data collection focuses on commercial purposes. Amazon doesn't sell data to third party. Amazon, like other tech giants, adopts the most advanced techniques to protect data of its customer because they represent the core of the business. The real problem is the quantity of customer data that the companies are missing over the year through the different services it is providing. I always recommend to limit our exposure online. Every time we access a new services, we have to read the term of use and we must choose the services that are less invasive. When dealing with Amazon, take care of the settings, for example, erase your Amazon browsing history, and when use Alexa, delete recording of the device.
All right, on to what's trending. Okay, let's kick it off with a story that sounds like it's right out of a Fast and Furious film. Now, hackers in Moscow created a traffic jam by breaching Russia's biggest ride-hailing app, Yandex Taxi, and summoning dozens of cabs to the same location.
So some legend hacked into Moscow's largest taxi service and got them all to wait. Massive line. Look at this. Slavia kidding. This guy is a legend. Look at
The taxis had gotten bookings to go to the capital's Fili district, a main thoroughfare that leads from the southwest to central Moscow. Yandex's security arm flagged the breach and within the hour halted more fake orders from going through. Hacktivist group Anonymous has claimed responsibility for the breach. It says it worked with the IT Army of Ukraine, a group of hacktivists that the Ukrainian government helped form shortly after Russia attacked Ukraine. The incident on Thursday is one of the first known instances of hackers attacking an app-based taxi firm to create chaos on the roads. Are we going to have to say goodbye to Netflix and chill? Well, maybe. For some of us, it could soon become Netflix, ads, and then chill. That's right, the streaming giant will reportedly roll out its cheaper ad-supported tier in November. Netflix initially told investors it'd launch its ad-supported plan early next year, but industry sources say the platform wants to roll out its new service in November, a whole month before Disney Plus Basic hits the market in the US. Netflix has yet to comment on the reports of its November launch, but sources say it'll go live in a number of countries, including the US, Canada, UK, and France. Of course, the internet has had a lot to say about Netflix's ad-supported tier.
There is a catch though to the ad-supported version, and that's that you won't get all available content sitting on Netflix. You will still get access to Netflix originals like Stranger Things, The Crown, and Pokemon, but you won't get access to popular third-party content like The Office and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is a bit of a puzzling decision. The news about Netflix's ad-supported tier has been met with heavy criticism as the company struggles to compete against rivals like Disney Plus and HBO Max. How much would you pay for an ad-supported version of Netflix with less content?
So which do you prefer? Do you prefer ad-supported subscription plans or do you prefer ad-free subscription plans? For me personally, I'm okay with ads. They decrease the cost of my monthly subscriptions for things like Netflix and Hulu, and I can use it to buy other streaming services, which is kind of nice, but I can see the other side of that coin.
From one streaming service to another, Amazon Prime Video's highly anticipated Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, finally hit screens last week. But Amazon embargoed user reviews for its blockbuster fantasy series for 3 days. The embargo was an attempt to prevent online trolls from a review bombing. That's a coordinated effort by a large number of people to post negative comments based on perceived political or cultural stances by the filmmakers. It may not be a new phenomenon, but Prime Video's strategy of holding user responses until they can be vetted is praised as a novel approach to the problem, and it seems to be working well. Ever since its cast was announced earlier this year, The Rings of Power has been slammed online for what some people call betraying Peter Jackson's vision. Despite these negative comments, the show is described as more progressive than the original Lord of the Rings by casting a set of racially diverse actors. And with its rumored $1 billion budget, it's the most expensive TV show ever made. Just as well, it's received some great reviews from the critics, particularly for the costumes, sets, visual effects, scale, and sheer ambition. And that brings us to the end of today's newsfeed. Find this show on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. Bye and see you same time tomorrow.